back again, talking to you about things that are wise, witty, and weird. And on this occasion, I just want to have a conversation about how we manage transparency, honesty within organisations. And the reason why I'm raising this issue right now is that we have an issue around Crown Casino here in Australia. Crown Casino is Melbourne. I think they've got a casino in WA and perhaps one in Queensland. But in Victoria, there was an inquiry into the casino, their casino. And as a result of that inquiry, there's been a whole host of resignations. And one of those resignations was Andrew Demetria, who was originally, his fame came from being the chief executive of the Australian Football League. And when he left that position, he clearly was a bit of a high flyer, I guess, and people sought his wisdom and encouraged him to seek further opportunities in the commercial area, and he has done so. And he was selected by Crown as one of their directors. And as a result of that selection, he has got himself into a wee bit of hot water. And the issue primarily was about them, that is the casino, laundering money. There's a really interesting and fascinating video that they played at the inquiry whereby someone had arrived with a satchel of money and they then unloaded that money to the teller, and the teller gave them in return some chips, for which obviously they went and gambled a little bit, then came back and cashed in those chips, which they could then declare were winnings. And so that's how they go about laundering their money. And apparently this must have happened a lot within the casino because their accounts didn't quite match up to actually what was happening across the tables and what was coming across the tellers. So, and this issue and the laundering of money became a big deal, particularly amongst high flyers. And of course, who launders money? Those people that have gained that money illegally. So there were obviously other organisations, criminal organisations, who were using the casino to do this. And it was clear that the casino knew this was happening. Clearly, laundering money, earning money illegally, and then laundering it through somewhere like a casino is an illegal act. Now, a couple of issues have arisen from this. Number one, whether the Crown Casino will ever be prosecuted for laundering money. We don't know whether that's going to happen or not yet. And the other one is the number of people on the board that have resigned. One of those people was Andrew Demetria. Now, he resigned after a great deal of pressure. I think he was planning to stay, but it became evident that he knew that something was happening within the casino. He was responsible for the accounts and the finances, and he knew that something was happening, but he chose not to follow it up. And his reason for not following it up was that he told the inquiry he wasn't an accountant. But one of the key issues, well, obviously he had other accountants there that could have known or probably should have known what was going on. So there was an issue. Why didn't those people who knew what was going on in the casino let him know what was going on? And if he knew, why wouldn't he have told Packer? And the issue has come about because I believe, he actually said that that he was asked a question, I think, by one of the lawyers or the judge in the inquiry, and basically said, well, only tell the boss, Packer, what Packer wants to know. And I know this is drawing a long bow rather, but it's a bit like in American politics and maybe in our politics as well, not 100% sure here, but are there occasions when the person that's in control, the powerful person at the top, whether we only tell them the things that we believe that they need to know? Because if we tell them the truth, then does that mean that we may lose our job, that we may be putting the organisation itself at risk, that we may be putting people around us also at risk by telling the truth. The fact is that within the Trump administration, that was clearly the case. And I mean, no one's going to dispute that. Everybody knows that they just didn't tell him what he needed to know because of the way he would respond. So if we have a manager that's likely to respond, or a CEO, or the chairman of the board of directors, whoever it might be, if we know that they're going to respond in a negative way, we're not going to be very pleased about we're not going to probably come forward and tell them what they need to be told about their organisation and what they're doing, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the fact that what you're doing is criminal and that there may be an inquiry, that you may be prosecuted, you may be held responsible, whatever. Sometimes people choose to not do the right thing because at the end of the day, they may lose their livelihood or whatever. But it really fascinates me because at the end of the day, they lose their reputation. So whatever it was that they thought that invested of themselves into the business becomes whitewashed. It becomes irrelevant because if they're caught out, as has been the case here with many of the directors on the Crown Casino, they are not only losing millions of dollars, no doubt, because the casinos had to close down, their reputation has been destroyed because they're crooks, basically. And the people that facilitated that illegal behaviour, also their reputations have been sullied as a result of all of this carry on. So the question has been, why is it then that people choose not to talk about things that are important, that they ethically are obligated to be able to have conversations with about? And the reason for that, I believe, is that there are people at the top of that organisation who wield so much power and who exert that power in a way which creates fear and uncertainty amongst their employers that you're just not going to confront it. The people choose not to confront it. They have a number of choices they could make. They could tell the truth to start with and bugger the consequences, or they could resign, right? Or they could go to the authorities and become a whistleblower and talk about it there. So there are a number of ways by which people could choose to do this. But the weak bastards are those who have won these positions, such as Andrew Dimitri, because of their past experiences. So there was no doubt that as an AFL chief executive, he was pretty good. He got to the AFL to a certain position. He was lauded for what he'd done. There were no blotches on his character, I don't think, as a result of what he had achieved. And so he won this posh and toffee type position as a director at Crown. Now, he, though, at some point, somewhere on the line, I'm assuming that he must have been a man without some sort of ethical principles, because he has chosen, knowing, I guess, what had happened, allegedly, and chose to do nothing about it, because morally, he wasn't in sync with the principles that needed to be abided by in order for him to do the right thing. The result being is now his reputation has been destroyed. The other one that I want to talk about is McGuire from Collingwood. Now, I was having a chat with some friends today about McGuire, and one of the guys at golf said, I like him, I've watched him on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and, he seems really nice, blah, blah, blah. But when you have a look at his history, which is some of the things he said on radio that were misogynist, that were racist, the underpinning part of his thinking is murky, to say the least. And even though there's no disputing also with him that he had done a fabulous job over 20 years with Collingwood Football Club. And I saw a speech that that he gave at his resignation when he was when he was talking about his resignation just the other day, and he talked about all the accomplishments that they'd done, including services for disabilities, services to LGBTQI people, services to the community in general, in terms of what the Collingwood Football Club have done, have been outstanding. There's no disputing that. I would never dispute that issue whatsoever. He was making a big deal of it because he needed to present to the public this version of himself that was positive, I guess. So Eddie McGuire became, in his mind, this person that had done all these wonderful things. But the report that came out about racism in the Collingwood Football Club, and I'll be honest, I haven't read it. It's only been the news reporting that I'm aware of. But clearly there were statements made by others within that club that created an environment which colluded with others that were racist. And if Eddie and others choose to not say anything about that are aware of it, but it kind of fits with their mentality somehow. And perhaps they don't see anything wrong with racist slurs against Indigenous players in particular, that somehow that says something about his character also. So we have these two people, Demetrio with Crown, and we have Eddie McGuire with Collingwood Football Club, who were unable to sit by a set of principles that actually would have made them stand out from the rest. But no, they were unable to do that. And being unable to do that sullied their reputations. It destroyed who they were. Because whatever legacy they had before them was destroyed. So AFL and Demetrio, that stuff in relation to his experiences and what he did for the AFL, that's now forgotten, because now we see him as the director of Crown, who allowed illegal activities to happen within that organisation. Eddie McGuire, regardless of all the accomplishments that he may have done with Collingwood Football Club, we now see him as the person who had to resign because a report came out that criticised the degree of racism and the culture around racism within that organisation. So it interests me that people can build up a reputation of some description and then have it destroyed in a moment. Just in a moment. And it saddens me to think that, to some extent, both these people have done some good stuff. No one's disputing that. But people don't remember the good stuff you've done. They remember the bad stuff, right? They remember that time you were angry and you yelled and you screamed and you shouted, so somehow you've been labelled as an angry person or whatever. That's what people remember. They're not prepared to remember all the good things that you've done. And I don't think it's necessarily that these are bad men either. I think they've had clouded judgment based on how they thought and felt about themselves and others around them, and how they might have thought and felt about those people that were in control, really in control of their organisations, particularly Crown Casino. So it saddens me that I wouldn't say that they're great men by any means. I don't put them at that level. I don't think they're intellectual geniuses. I don't think they've necessarily said or written anything that's profound. I don't think they've necessarily changed society in any particular way for the better. They might have changed their little version of the world, whether it be Collingwood Football Club or the AFL, I guess, but they might have changed some of that stuff. But they haven't done anything resounding. They don't deserve to be Australian of the Year. They haven't got anything going for them that necessarily stands them out, apart from being a TV personality and now a businessman. So what do they have to offer now? What does the future look like for them? I wonder. whether people are going to see them through the prism of what they've done recently and what's been discovered about them, or whether people will see them for what they've done in the past. It's unlikely that they'll see them for what they've done in the past. They'll remember them for what they've done now. So thanks for being with me for Wise, Witty and Weird. It's good to be with you, and that I do keep saying this, and I'm just going to pop it up again if I can find it, is to remember, please, to subscribe to us, and of course ring the bell so that you can be notified next time I go online and I have a chat with you. If you've got any comments, please put them down below. And if you would like to go to Patreon and contribute also to Wise, Witty and Weird, so that we can continue to do what we're doing and inform you about ideas that we have that you may find interesting. So thanks for being with me. Take care and look after yourself, everybody.